Dave, I know you often say that you don't get too high or too low dependent on results, but everyone must have taken such a boost from a win like that in a game of such importance on Saturday.
Yeah, I suppose the boring answer is you move on. I was asked after the game around whether it's a statement win. Again, if you lose your next two games, it's not a statement win, is it? So I'm still, like I say, a believer that you look back at the end of the season and you then maybe say there are moments or there are pivotal games that maybe started or a run or swung the balance in a particular way. And our job now is to make sure that at the end of the season we look back and say that was a catalyst for us going on and winning a number of games that ultimately got us promoted, and hopefully that will be the case. But you're obviously going to take huge positives from going into a game that was a little bit different because of the potential outcomes and the consequences of those outcomes, and producing the performance that we did in front of the TV cameras against a rival close to us and winning the game by the margin that we did.
It'd probably be easy and maybe lazy to look at the result and say, oh, count it back to the best. But in fairness, building on what you were saying last week, when you look at performances, when you look at the stats, the performances have been there for a few weeks now. It's just about being efficient in both boxes, which you were at the weekend.
Yeah, I think if I sit back or I sat in front of a group of supporters, and we'll do the same with the players, and say, tell me 3 games this season where we performed unbelievably and tell me 3 games where we were horrendous, that'll solely be based around the results. So they might say, oh, Wrexham, MK Dons, Doncaster or something like that. And they might say Tranmere, Crewe. It'll be 3 losses and 3 wins. And if you want to break the games down more, look back to the 2 games that we lost. We can see the 6 goals from set pieces. Something that went from being the best or one of the best, certainly in the top 3 defending set pieces, to potentially one of the worst because of those 2 games. Now we'll look at it from a coaching perspective, management perspective, and playing group perspective, and say that's not us. And 3, 4, 5 games later, we're back to what we were, being difficult to score against, not giving teams many opportunities. And the reality of it is, after those 2 losses, we probably should be sat here having 5 clean sheets on the bounce and having, unfortunately, drew 2 of them games and probably won 3 of those games. That's not the case. So you're always going to question things, but you can't get, like say, too embroiled by results all the time. You have to look at what performance will be, and performances, in my eyes, over the course of the season haven't changed massively. We lost some games at the start of the season through individual mistakes. We then won 13 games on the bounce, 12 in the league, by punishing mistakes and having a real threat in transition. We then drew some games when circumstances around our squad situation were difficult, and we went to some difficult pitches to play on, which again level things up. And then we made some mistakes, as you said, in one penalty area it cost us goals, and in the other penalty area didn't put the ball away. Saturday's performance was not too much different. It was a front foot performance. We created and caused some panic and havoc in deep areas. What we did then was we were really efficient in punishing those mistakes, and in a 20-minute blast between the first goal and the fourth goal, put ourselves in a winning position, which then allowed us to manage the game. If we do that over the remainder of the season, then we'll be in a good place.
In terms of preparation, obviously the scheduling's been a little bit different in recent weeks anyway, because of games being moved for TV. Easter doubleheader now coming up, which is often a decisive weekend in the season. How do you prepare for those 2 games? Do you view them almost as a block of 2, or is it just one game at a time?
Both, I suppose. It is one game at a time. We're not looking beyond what Friday looks like, but we have to look what beyond Friday looks like because of the, I suppose, physical capacity of some of the small players. So we've got to be realistic around players that are coming back into the squad, whether they can play both of those games, whether the risk of playing both those games is worth it, what that looks like further down the line. So you have to be very focused on what's in front of you in the next game, but it would be daft of us to not have an eye on what the next 7 games looks like. So we have to plan for this next 5 weeks and make sure that we want to have players coming back, which hopefully will be the case, but we want to make sure we still have the group that we've got, and make sure that the players coming back only add to that and not replace ones that are sort of going out for different reasons. So yes, there's a real focus on what's in front of us. Yes, it's easy to go, it's a Friday, Monday, Easter sort of fixture schedule, which we'll look at. So I suppose the answer to it is a little bit of both.
Just a word on Paddy Madden. His next appearance will be his 150th for Stockport County. 34 years of age now, but again showing on Saturday that he can still be the man for the big occasion for your team. Yeah,
this part of the season is... listen, it's always important to have experienced players, but this part of the season more than ever, through experience of mine, is when you need your experienced players to step up, because it is different. I think you'd love to be in a situation where you were talking about form, and the reality was you were going out and blasting teams in every game, 3-0 and 4-0, and games being really, really easy. That's not the case. This is the part of the season where the mental strength of players becomes more important, because there's more jeopardy, there's less margin for error in terms of the games you've got left, and although there's still 3 points up for grabs, those 3 points seem a whole lot more important. The players that have been there and done that tend to deal with that better. That's pretty obvious, certainly at our level, and the better and the more players you have can do that can I suppose have that cold feel around the game. The fact that last Saturday's game is a game against a team that's 1 place below or 2 places below you, 1 place below you, can go above you if they beat you, it's on TV, all them things, you drop out the top 3 for the first time in God knows how long. They're all added things that from our perspective you try and quash and play down, but the reality is players know where it sits, and how players deal with that, especially this part of the season, is going to be absolutely pivotal. Paddy plays a big part with that, as does Powley, as does Sauce, as does Woods, as does Fraser, as does Ben. They've all been part of the situations. They know how it feels. They have to take responsibility for that, because some of the maybe younger members in the group that haven't experienced that, or haven't experienced a lot of it, and have that little bit of uncertainty, will be hanging on to every action that they put forward, or will be hanging on to them and looking for them to go and make an impact in what a game looks like. So with that in mind, you look at the players that we had on the pitch last Saturday. Did they step up? The experienced ones, absolutely. Were they pivotal in terms of what the game looked like? Absolutely. Is that going to be the case over the final remaining 8 games of the season? Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I don't shy away from how important they are, especially this part of the season.
One of those younger players that you mentioned is obviously Tanto, who got hit the 20 goal mark for the season, which is often the benchmark for strikers going into the start of the season. How big an achievement is that for him at his age?
Yeah, brilliant achievement with still 8 games to go. So hopefully from his perspective he can push on and get closer to 30 than 20. And if that means he gets 26, then brilliant, because I suggest again we'll be in a good position with that being the case. But it's been I suppose a little bit of a breakout season for him. Consistently played. I know I spoke to you about appearances. Normally in a team that is successful, you would want, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 players to play close to 40 games. The way we've been this year, we're probably going to only have a couple that sort of achieve that milestone, which even more so shows the importance of him remaining fit and keeping fit. And I hope I don't jinx anything by saying that at this point. Is there work to do with him? Absolutely. Is he raw? Absolutely. Is he a nightmare to play against? Most definitely, because he has physical attributes in terms of that pace and power that defenders hate. He never gives defenders a moment's peace, and the important thing for him, as well as improving technically and trying to develop his game, will be to still work on his strengths. And every goal that he's scored, without giving secrets away, has been between the goals, between 6 and 18 yards out. So the more often he gets himself into those areas, the more chance he's got of scoring. Quite evidently, teams will then try and do things a little bit different. One thing that Tanto would love is spacing behind, because if he can get himself in races, then over the course of a game, he's going to win more races than he loses. But he can evolve, he can get better, and that's obviously a massive positive when someone's already scored 20 goals.
Just while we're talking about strikers, you mentioned having Louis Barry back in the building this week. Presumably still a few weeks away from playing, but surely just to have him back in the group will give everyone a lift.
It'll work both ways. It'll give everyone a lift, and it'll give Louis a lift. So yeah, he'll be back with us on Thursday. Will likely travel with us, I think, just to get back involved. Will train with us. I wouldn't envisage that he'll be involved for certainly the next couple of weeks, but hopefully there'll be a gradual return to play, and certainly play his part in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 games, which again, when you add to the fact that he should be hopefully joined by Sauce, Noyley, Aki, Ethan Bristow, Will Collar. It could be 6 players that we're already adding to the squad we had from Saturday, which undoubtedly will make us stronger and give us more options.
Do you hope to have any of those players that you just mentioned available for this weekend?
I would hope over the weekend we would see Sauce and potentially Noyley. In what capacity, I'm not too sure yet. We're still early in the week as we're doing this, so the way things have gone for us, every training session becomes a little bit of a risk. So hopefully we get through, and those two can play their part. Again, they probably, most definitely fall into the bracket of having an eye on Friday and Monday and what that looks like, because if we do think that either of them is going to play the part on, be that Friday or Monday, we've probably got to retrospectively look what the previous or the later game looks like. So they're the two that hopefully we can have some involvement with, but time will tell only on that.
Just finally on Forest Green, Steve Cotterill, quite critical of his side's performance last week at Doncaster, but on the whole, since he's gone in there, you can see the impact that he's had. They invested in January, obviously, as well. So what sort of challenge are you expecting going there now at this stage of the season?
A tough one, but one that I suppose everyone will look at from our perspective. We've got one home game sandwiched in between playing the bottom 3 teams away. That in itself brings challenges, not just because of the fact that away from home we're playing, from our perspective, with a really big objective in front of us. But these 3 teams are scrapping for their lives and playing for an objective that's been forced upon them because of how they've done over the course of the season. So it works in my eyes in a positive as a negative. There's just as much pressure on, or if not more pressure on them than there is on us, because their Football League status sort of hangs in the balance, and we expect a really, really tough game, but it's a real big opportunity for us, because the next game's a massive opportunity for us, and we see every game as that, regardless of whether it's home or away. And from within these 4 walls, the prize that we're fighting for in our eyes is much bigger than the prize that they're fighting for. So that's got to be our sort of go-to. That'll be our mindset. We have to go and back up, as I say, what we did on Saturday, and make sure that Saturday does become a statement win, because it's the catalyst of us going on and winning the games we need over the remaining 8 to make sure that we're winning as a minimum in those top 3 places, and hopefully higher than that.
Appreciate your time, Dave. Thank you.
Welcome. Cheers. Thank you.